So a lot of people had asked me what is the reasons why there is this protests here in Colombia, and maybe people want to know about it. The reason why I'm doing it in English is because I think that in Spanish it's explained, people can take the sides, but I guess people who are English speakers don't really understand what it's really happening, and maybe they're watching this through a filtered version. So here's a sum up. Basically, Ivan Duque became president in 2018. Since he became president, he presented two tax laws which changed a lot of the government. That was basically one that was originally known as the law of finance, the tax law of finance or government financiation. And then there was another one called the tax law of growth. Basically, those two laws modified our tax regime and allowed the 1% rich people to actually pay less taxes, while the middle class basically paid more or began to enter. That already created a $10 billion pesos, basically that's our deficit in our production, basically, which was being dragged in. And basically those two tax reforms eliminated all possibilities of brand new enterprises in Colombia, and basically we began to see how the economy began to actually stop and lose basically its ability. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hits and things get worse. The government has to now spend money to actually make the health or the health part of our country, basically hospitals, clinics. We have here something called health promotion entities, which is basically our version of, HMOs for those who are in America, or, the welfare system for those who are in other parts of the world. And the government had to spend over 44.4 billion pesos to not to confront the COVID, but to put the health system sufficiently strong enough to respond to the pandemic. So that means that the government is basically doesn't have a lot of money. And besides that, the economical crisis, it happened. The idea is that they were going to basically in 2020, because of tax, the idea was to, they were to get an income of 158 billion pesos, which actually didn't happen. They ended up, I think the numbers was 127 billion pesos. That was the amount of it. And basically the government had to go out, the World Monetary Fund and any other organizations, and ask them for loan money, which of course incremented or increased our, external debt, making it for the first time over the 60%, which means that our internal production value, or PIB, which is called Spanish, for the first time, our debt is bigger than what we're producing. So that means that we're spending more money than we're actually making or getting more money. And that, of course, creates a deficit. So in the middle of the pandemic, the idea was to, set another tax reform. Of course, the government needs money. We need to balance our equations. And basically, it's okay. It's logical. It has to happen. But the problem was that instead of doing things the way they were supposed to be doing it, they decided to basically stick a middle finger up where and to the middle class, meaning that the middle class now, people who are basically with very low income, we're talking about mid-class income, will now have to pay more taxes. Now, initially, those who are making around, I think the number will be around $400, $400 will have to will have to declare, and eventually, as the tax advances, people who are making $300 a month will have to now pay taxes. It's amazing. People are going to say, "What? Somebody can live with $400 in Colombia?" Yeah, we actually can live with $400, and quite well, actually. So the issue here is that, of course, the people were, first of all, without jobs because the pandemic took all their jobs out. The middle class was the one who suffered the most, who lost a lot of jobs. We have a risk that half of our population can end up in the poverty line, which is the one thing that people are not realizing. And of course, then we have a beautiful, beautiful law which is going to modify the health system, which basically is going to privatize it. It's going to be like the American way, basically HMO type styles. If you don't have an insurance for a certain type of disease, then your health thing is not going to your health program is not going to cover it. So let's say you got cancer. If you don't have an insurance which covers cancer, then you're basically doomed. Good luck. Maybe go and pray to Virgin Mary or wait for a miracle. That's the whole idea behind this crazy situation. And besides that, of course, there is the old-timey resentments, centralized government. Basically, they govern for themselves, and, political elites who have been governing this country for who knows what and where. And all of that summed up to this political resentment. Now, here's the interesting part. Initially, the protests ended up, as they should. The government said, "Oh, we're not gonna present the tax reform. That's it. We're not gonna do it." That's a popular move. But the thing about it is, what they're doing right now is they're not actually eliminating the tax reform. What they're doing right now is they say, "Oh, we're gonna retire it, but we're gonna present it again." Meaning that this tax reform can actually come back to haunt us. And besides that, of course, all the social problems and the peace process, which was basically, for lack of a better word, and I'm sorry for those people who are going to be offended, basically the right-wing government shitted on it and basically destroyed it completely. So all those factors are the things that are actually fueling these protests here in Colombia, for you people to understand. That's the reality of how bad the situation is, because we're seeing that the government is not caring about people. You see, the thing about governments is they're not supposed to be in the service of the private organizations. They're supposed to be in the service of the people, and it's not happening. Here, basically, every right-wing government that comes in basically favors the business sides, the business. Well, the whole comes in and said, "Oh, if the rich pay less taxes, they will make more jobs." That, of course, we all know it's a bunch of baloney, and it doesn't happen like that. It never happens like that. It actually quite the contrary. So, that's the factors in it. Now, let's talk about my native city where I live, Santiago de Cali in Valle del Cauca. The thing about our city is that it's quite a unique mix of rich and poor people living side by side. But in recent years, we've seen how that line between rich people and poor people is beginning to get more and more and more wider. What I mean by that is, I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is people are getting more poor, richers are getting more rich. And of course, we have the whole drug thing, and we have all those problems in together. But the thing about it is that there is a social resentment in Cali. We are probably one of the few parts of Colombia where we basically give the middle finger to the centralized government. We're like, go ahead and do whatever the hell you want to do. We don't want you here. We hate Bogota. We hate Bogotanian people. But I mean, not hate in the sense of, like, oh, if you see people from Bogota, we'll shoot it. Not in that sense. What I'm trying to say is we don't like being told what we're supposed to do. We like to be an autonomous region. We like to determine it. And the factor is we hold one of the biggest ports of Colombia, which is Buenaventura. And unfortunately, it's where basically the centralized Bogotanian government has basically, done whatever it is. So that, with the factors of guerrillas, paramilitaries, and drug cartels, and basically all of that created a situation where we're seeing the marginalization of people. People are getting more poorer. People are getting less chances to come out of being poor so they can enter the middle class. And this is not just only happening in Cali. It's happening everywhere in Colombia. Like, it's not exclusive to us. But the problem is we came from an 8-year government with Santos where we saw economical growth. As I'm going to say, I'm going to make it clear because a lot of people, and I know a lot of Colombians are going to start, dissing and saying a lot of things about it. First and most forwardly, I am not a Santos fan. Okay, I am not a Santista. I am not a Nuribista. I have no political affiliation whatsoever. My affiliation is with humankind, with humanity, and the right for people to be better living. So, Santos gave us 8 years of a certain level of economic prosperity. We saw growth in many sectors. Where I live, the construction was booming everywhere. New buildings, new apartment buildings were building everywhere where I live. And all that sort of gave people the sense of, oh, the economy is really good. Like, you're seeing people who are getting easy jobs. And we saw for the first time in maybe, I think it was like 10 or 12 years, according to the statistics, where the unemployment number went below the two-digit sign. So we went from 11, 10, 12 to seeing numbers around the 8, the 7% of people unemployed. People were able to study, people were able to do it. By the way, if you're hearing that clapping, is because there's a group of kids down here in the street which basically painted a mural in honor of the victims of the violence of our protest, and they're talking about it. There's a reason why I choose now to do this video. So basically, what happens in Cali is that we see this marginalization of people, and Cali has an invisible frontier which is called the Simón Bolívar Highway. It crosses the city from south to north, but it's literally a line that tells you where the poor people live and where the middle class and rich people live. Although there are spots here and there where poor people live. But for the most part, this is a physical frontier. And you saw that resentment towards the late 2019's 21 of November, when we had those protests. You saw the resentment. Where I live, we actually had the fake news of people coming in and entering our apartment blocks and stealing us, which was, of course, complete baloney. It was just blow up thing. But what was clear was there was a social resentment. Nobody dealt with it. And over the course of that time, and the pandemic, and the fact that people don't have opportunity, well, guess what? It's like a boiling pot. Eventually, water is going to boil, and things are going to start coming out of it. And what we're seeing is violence. Now, that's one part of the problem. The other part of the problem comes with this. We are in a generational change. Basically, people who were born in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s in Colombia were known as the, you guys have like X generation, millions and everything. For us, we have something called the silent generation. The silent generation is basically a generation that didn't have any political participation whatsoever. They were told, shut up, do as you're told, vote, and do not by any chance defy us. Because if you help us, eventually, if you work hard and your kids work hard and they study, they will be able to achieve the status that we have. So you're not working for you, you're working for your children. That's the message that was being given to this generation. This is the generation that supported drug cartels, that supported paramilitary groups. And that generation is right now on the end of its life cycle. They're coming out. There are less and less of them who are able to vote that type of system. So there is this group of young kids who are saying, hey, we can change this. We can have a much better change. We can have a better country for us. And that's the reason why these people are doing what they're doing. Is the reason why these people are protesting, these young kids, because it's not old people. It's not people, I'm a 38-year-old man. I'm relatively young, I know that, but in the sense of a way, I support them, but I'm not going to be one of the guys who's going to be in the street. I try to support them in the way I can. I'm a lawyer, so if I can, sort of lend my legal services to people, I will do that if I have to help people. But it's the young people that are 18, 19, 20 years old, who now are seeing the perspective of maybe they're not going to be able to, get a pension. They're going to have a hard time. They're not going to get a stable job. Those are the people who are actually coming out and protesting in the streets. So what you're seeing here is young people angry, frustrated. Young people, we're talking about people who are 19, 20, 21. You're starting your life as an adult, and yet still they're frustrated. They are frustrated. They're like, yo, we are not getting the same chances our dads did. Like, for example, my father, he is a 60-year-old man. He has a pension which doubles or triples doubles the amount of money I make in a month. And I'm a professional, and I'm a lawyer. So you can imagine from my perspective how, for lack of a better expression, fucked up that thing is, right? Like, I'm trying to say, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So my dad is making more money now that he's retired than I'm making money while I'm working. So I want you guys to understand that is the reason why there are protests in Colombia. I know a lot of shit is being talked in the media about, paramilitary groups, Castro Chavismo, Venezuela. That's all bullshit, okay? I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it right now. It's bullshit. The real thing is, for the past since 1959, our country has been held in a grip chokehold by this aristocratic political class that has governed to favor themselves, which has led us to a point of inflection, a point in which we as a society, or people, the young people as a society, saying, hey, I want a better future for me and for everybody else. And unfortunately, we've tried peace process, taking out the paramilitary groups, fighting the drug lords. It hasn't worked out. You know why? Because they don't care. Because they profit from war. They profit from conflict. So this young generation is saying to them, you know what? We want to change stuff. We want to change everything. And that's the reason why we're seeing the protests that we're seeing today. It's been 8 days of constant protest. Right now in my city, there is no gas, no diesel. A few stations have gas, not in the sense of gasoline, but gas in liquefied gas. And well, yesterday there was a convenience saying, okay, we're going to let the food trucks come in. So that's basically the problem that we're having right now. So I want you guys to understand that. I'm not taking any political stances, or I'm not taking any position whatsoever. Quite the contrary. I don't have a political position with concerning this. But what I do have is a resentment and an understanding that it's young people that are dying in the streets. It's not old people. It's not the politicians. It's not, those old politicians who have their mansion and have their 100 bodyguard body. It's young people. Young people who are the future. Young people who are the factor of production in this country. Those are the people who are dying in the streets. Those are the people that are being killed in the streets. And by a police force that, without a doubt, has been trained to kill, exterminate, who do not defend the people. They just defend the individual interests of people. So I want you guys to understand that. I know many people are not going to be, in favor or okay with what I'm saying, and maybe even within my family members there are going to be people who are basically going to call me out for what I'm saying. But you know what? I don't care. You know why? Because I'm living here. I'm living in the middle of the shitstorm, as you would like to say. And to be honest with you, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see how my country is being torn apart. But it's not torn apart by political ideologies or left or right. Nah, it's being torn by economical interests. That's what's happening. So I hope you guys sort of understand a little bit about what's going on. I know it's a little bit dowdy, but it's okay. I invite you, if you want to write me, you can write me, and I will try to answer as much as I can, and I will try to post as much as I can about the situation every day. I'm sorry about the quality, but I'm doing it from my cell phone. I don't have a professional camera. Maybe later I will try to find one. But for now, I want you guys to understand that this is the reality of what we're living. And I hope you guys understand this. And, not saying support us, but at least put the word out there, man. Put the word out there. Let more people understand what is the real situation that is happening in this country. Because honestly, it is without a doubt the most scariest time I've ever lived. And seeing how many young people are being killed on the streets is, it's just saddening. So write me your questions, whatever it is you want to do it. Hey, hate it, love it, I don't care. Report it, I don't care. But I just hope that you guys understand what is the real situation that's happening. Maybe it's a little bit of a longer video than it should be. Maybe I'll do a snippet about it, but I hope you guys understand it. Thank you.